Hello everyone, this is FIDE Master Viktor Nestroev. Thank you for coming to my webinar. Today the webinar is devoted to the initiative. So it's called How to Develop and Implement the Initiative. This is a very important topic. Okay, please let me know if the sound is good and you can hear me. Okay, I'm good, guys. So the guys who, the members of our online chess tournament, please don't forget that today is the last day to play the game. Okay, yeah, hi Samuel. Okay, hello everyone. And if you are on this webinar for the first time, please let me know which country are you from and what's your FIDE rating, or if you don't have a FIDE rating, at least what's your chess.com rating. Fine. So today so here we have Julien from Belgium, Anatoly from United States, Samuel also from United States. Perfect. Okay. Edwin is from Canada. Edwin, which province do you live? Okay, in Corsi, probably. From United States. Okay, so Quebec. So okay, so it's nice that you can speak English, because I've heard that even more than 50% of citizens in Quebec speaks only French. Okay, fine. So for you who don't know who I am, I'm a FIDE master, Viktor Nestroev from Russia. I live in Novosibirsk, and this is from where I conduct my webinars. Every Sunday I conduct a webinar. Please visit them regularly. They are quite interesting sometimes. Sometimes they are informative, educational, and I'm sure they definitely will teach you they teach you some certain skills that you can implement in your games, and this is how you can win the games more often. Okay, fine. Before we start, let me share something else. Okay, so I'm sharing now the Opera. So this is our educational group tricks of chess. So please join it if you want to get more educational stuff from there. You can find it there. And actually, I'm streaming the webinar, and you can find it here. So you see live webinar 54. So this is on this is my YouTube translation, YouTube stream. If you click, then you can watch it even from here, or you can find it directly on YouTube. So this is the link for you to subscribe if you want. And if you like the webinars, but for some reason you miss some of them, you can find them in a special playlist where I published all the webinars that I conducted. And this webinar is 54, so all 53 previous webinars are there. Fine. And the last thing I want to show you is my website, where you can find my online courses that are quite helpful and can teach you some certain skills. But if you are just interested in something related to chess, you can read my blog. So, for example, last time I posted about the chess movies that I recommend. And actually, the recent one that I watched was Queen's Gambit, and it's a really quite TV show. Netflix recently published it. Fine, so we are done with it. Let's now go back to chess and we'll discuss the initiative. Oh, voice is breaking, really? Maybe it's because of your internet connection. Guys, please tell me if the voice is okay, or or I need to do something to improve. Fine for me. Okay, so it looks like path. It's something with your internet connection. Okay, fine. So now you see the screen, and we are going to talk about the initiative. And as the first example, I'm going to demonstrate you the game between Sergei Tivyakov and Konstantin Sakayev. So Konstantin is quite a famous coach, but he only works with Russian students because he doesn't speak English, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, Edwin, sure, I will. Okay, fine. So what you guys know about the initiative? No, first of all, if you read my description of this webinar, I provided you with the phrase that Wilhelm Steinitz said. He said that a player who has an advantage should attack, otherwise he may lose the advantage. And when we have the initiative, we should try to develop it. And if our opponent is able to extinguish it, then at least he is able to equalize. However, even in such a case, he may overtake the initiative and get a better position, and then we may face with some problems. Okay, so Anatoly, yes, generally speaking, you're right. If you play for a draw, you lose. However, top grandmasters, when they play with black pieces, they are ready to agree for a draw. They usually, so they have a plan for a certain tournament, and when they face something really strong, like for example, Sergei Karakin says that if he faces with a strong player over 2600, he can agree to a draw. However, Sergei is 2750, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So because it's such a top level, it's difficult for black to overtake the initiative and outplay white. However, it happens quite often. At your level, I recommend you to play for a victory for both colors, white or black. Okay, now please look at this position and tell me how do you evaluate it and who is better and why. This position is quite sharp. So which white pieces are good, which black pieces are fine. Sorry. Yeah, so if speaking about white benefits, I would say that these two rooks on a7 and a6 are quite strong. Also, I would say that this bishop is quite good. It's playing on both sides of the board, and the knight on h5 creates some problems for our king and potentially can join the mating attack. For example, if it somehow gets to f6, then rook h7 is a winning idea. However, right now it doesn't work because we have so many pieces defending it. Okay, so Nimish says that white is having initiative because of two rooks and bishops. Okay. Black's pieces are inactive. Actually, if you look at this position, you can notice that almost all black pieces are located on their ideal positions. Black has only two problems. This queen is not participating in the game, and the bishop is blocked. If black is able to solve these two problems, then he can collaborate with all his pieces. In other words, he may interact with them all and deliver real problems. So all black pieces are good except these two that I marked, the queen and this bishop on g8, a light squared bishop. As for white, no, white also has some bad pieces. It's the knight on f1 that is not doing much. And I can also say that the queen on f2 is not a good piece. I would say even the queen on h6 is better. So what do you think black should do? It's black's turn to move in this position, actually. This is what I should start with. When we try to evaluate the position, we should, of course, understand whose turn to move it is. So d4, this is what Emilio suggests. What else? Okay, looks like there are no good suggestions except d4. Let's analyze. Rook b1 takes f1, but wait a sec. What this move does? Then queen, of course, takes because the bishop is tied down to the protection of this knight. What then? Taking on e3. Okay, let's go through this line. Queen takes e3. So then probably rook e8. Let's make a few more moves. Well, d4. That's the goal. So, for example, d4, but then I think rook takes f8, knight takes f8, and even queen e5, queen f5 taking on a e5 on the next move. So this is a kind of a problem. Okay, so looks like it was not the best choice to sacrifice the exchange first. But Konstantin Sakaev here decides to play d4. So with the idea to either take on e3 with the pawn and play d3 maybe. d3 is quite a strong move because the bishop has no squares to move, so white is forced to take. But this move allows us to activate a light squared bishop. That's the idea. So what do you think? Should we play bishop d5 right now, or maybe we should play something else first? Bishop d5 now is correct, and then e3, you think? Yes. However, I think you may find the better move in this position, and so I think you have here two options. One of them is f4, the move that I like more. Then d takes e5, f takes g3. For example, now the queen is hanging. Queen takes, rook takes f1, bishop takes f1, rook takes f1, king goes to g2, and after rook f3, the game is over because black is absolutely winning. Queen goes somewhere to e1 or h2, doesn't really matter, and we take on h5. Even if queen goes to g5, we can you can still play queen h5. But queen h5 is no queen h5, knight f4, and knight takes h5. But it's not the best choice. You actually can deliver a mate with knight h4. The queen is hanging, it has to take. Then queen d2. King goes to g1. Then our task is to relocate. Like that. And then deliver a line mate. Like that. Fine. So f4 is the move that I liked. Another option in this position was first to play bishop b8, force the rook to move, and then play, if rook goes here, then f4. If rook goes to another square, maybe to a8, then bishop d5. However, Grandmaster Sakaev decided to play bishop d5 immediately. Of course, the bishop on e5 is not hanging because of e3. So what white should do? White has two options here. King h2. Okay, let's try king h2. If so, we may continue with e3. The queen has just a few squares. This one, for example. Then we play bishop b8. This rook has to move. And after bishop a4, I think the position is absolutely winning. Because then, on the next move, we are going to play rook b2 and even take the bishop. So probably he has to move the rook back to protect it. But if so, then I think f4 can decide the game. So white decided that this is not the best move, and they played queen g2, because if now e3, then this bishop on d5 is hanging. What do you think we should continue in this position? Yeah, exactly. So if the position is sharp, and actually in general cases, if the position is open, you shouldn't waste your time. You shouldn't waste your tempers, but you should play some certain moves that create threats and force your opponent to defend the position. Because if you make a move by move attacking your opponent, you force him to defend, and this is how you keep the initiative. And believe me, after maybe 10 defensive moves, your opponent will make a mistake. Definitely. Even after 5 or 6 defensive moves, he is likely to make a mistake. Because it's always difficult to defend, and nobody teaches to defend. If you, for example, watch YouTube or buy some educational video courses, the best selling courses are the courses about the attack, how to attack, how to make tactical strikes, and so on, but nobody teaches how to defend. So how to continue? What do you think black should do to win this game? No, yeah, some openings are called defenses because white usually attacks, black has to defend. But it's very common when in such defenses, especially in Sicilian defense, black can overtake the initiative. So bishop d4, bishop d4. Oh yeah, actually bishop d4 looks good, but wait a sec, there is something that I didn't like in this move. Maybe bishop d4 or rook d7, and this is a double attack on the bishop pair. Yeah, I don't think bishop d4 is what deserves any attention. Yeah. Bishop b8, yes, that makes sense. To gain a tempo and then continue the attack. But I think here Anatoly is correct. It's f4 immediately. What can he do in this position? Let's check. So in the game, it was g takes f4. I don't think that knight takes f4 should be analyzed here, but we definitely should analyze what can happen in case if they take our bishop. f3. All right, f3. So if he doesn't take, then we take. And then it opens the f file so that we can capture on f1. So that's why bishop f3, e takes f3, queen f2, blocking it. Yeah, queen h5 definitely makes sense. And then we are up a piece. Yeah, right. But we can take on f1, queen f1, then f2 check, king goes to h2. And in this position, we'd better take on h5. And then we are threatening with either bishop c4, maybe knight h4 as well, to deliver a checkmate. So it's absolutely winning position. That's why they should take on f4 with the g pawn. G takes f4, bishop takes f4. If, for example, we take on f4 with our knight, no, actually, it doesn't make sense because we lose our queen, then gain the enemy queen, but after king g2 e3, he can just go back to g1. Can he? No, h3. h3 is better. And then he's threatening with a rook h7 move, and maybe rook g7 if only we move this bishop. Yeah, so it wasn't a blunder because we attacked the enemy queen, and I wanted to calculate this line if these two bishops can play the main role in this mating attack. But no, knight f4 doesn't work. The knight is pinned, so definitely bishop f4. Bishop f4. No, if knight f4, oh, let's go through this line. Then we play queen takes, rook takes f4, and then rook takes h4, or queen takes h4. So you see, rook a8 is not a good move because of the bishop on d5. Rook d7 was played in the game. Bishop c4. If bishop takes c4, then queen h5. So it's not a blunder, it's just a trade, and after this trade, we want to take on h4. So bishop c4, knight takes f4. Bishop takes e2. Now, if, for example, queen takes on e2, we can take on h4, king g1, and after queen f4, not knight f4, but after queen f4, we have a strong attack on f1. Wait a sec. No, I think queen f4 is a mistake. What can you say about queen f4? It's definitely a bad move. Exactly, Samuel. What about rook h7? True. King h7. Oh, otherwise rook g6 is coming. So king h7, queen h5. Here we have to block with our queen. Otherwise he plays rook g6 with a mate. So queen h6. But then he checks from the 7th rank. We play king g8 and lose the queen, but then we are able to deliver a perpetual check with 2 rooks. So that's why this is a bad move. Instead, knight f4 should be played, and this is absolutely winning position because rook h7 doesn't work here. And our next move is rook g8, after which we win the game. Okay, fine. So bishop e2, knight rook g6 was played. It's difficult to find anything better. But queen h4. If king g1, just queen f4, and then we take on f1. Looks like, yes, the king is in a dangerous position, but nothing immediately works. So, for example, queen h3, queen takes h3, knight takes h3, and after h takes g6 in this position, we can also take this knight and win the game. Okay, so it's difficult. It's difficult to control everything, especially in sharp positions. How do I try? How do I do it? So first, you should analyze the threats, and you should be looking at immediate threats if there is something. And keep in mind that, okay, I keep my queen on that side of the board to stop the rook coming here and deliver some problems to my king. And so you should keep in mind all activities in certain parts of the board. And at the same time, before you make a move, you should understand. So you move your piece from this position. What does it mean? What it allows your opponent to do? So the queen went. Can he threaten with the threat that he was threatening before? And our queen was defending it. So it's difficult, but you should just systemize everything in your mind and control every certain part of the board. Later threat. I mean, yeah. So then you are likely to blunder. However, any time you make a move, you should ask yourself what your opponent gonna do. And if you can't answer this question right now, then you should say, like, what if I were him? What move would I play in such a case? Okay, fine. So I hope you like this game. So here, actually, black position was better. He has only 2 bad pieces, the bishop and queen. And this move, d4, so this move d4 activates them both, and this is how black is able to overtake the initiative and start a mating attack. Okay, fine. I hope it's clear for this game. Let me open a new one. So for this webinar, I'm using to analyze this game. I was first using Stockfish, but then I couldn't install it to virtual machine here. That's why just to check my ideas, I use Deep Fritz 13. However, I think that Fritz is enough. And it's much better than me, and of course can show me the mistakes. Now I want to show you the game between two strong players, and I'm sure you know them. It's Vasil Ivanchuk from Ukraine and Alexander Morozevich. So Alexander is a very interesting player because he plays some really weird openings, and he prefers to attack, of course. So he has some really original ideas that no other player would come up with. However, in this game, Vasil Ivanchuk won it. E4, E6, D4, D5, Knight C3, Knight F6, E5, Knight goes to D7, then F4. This is a very famous opening. So it's actually French defense classical system. No, it's not advanced French, because advanced French is played when E5 is played as the third move. If I'm not mistaken, it's called Steinitz variation. Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop E3, and Bishop E7. Who knows how to play in this position? Queen D2. Yeah, Queen D2 is one of the possible moves in this position, and this is how I would play. The second possible move is D takes C5. That was played in the game. So here, Bishop C5 can be played on Knight C5. Black decided to play Knight C5. Then Knight comes to E4. Bishop E2. Oh, actually, once I played a similar position, and I played Queen E5. So my opponent, who is also my friend, international master, played something like that, and then I offered this trade. So he decided to sacrifice the pawn there. That was a mistake. No, the pawn on c3. He played some move like bishop d3 or queen e2. I don't remember. Maybe the queen was already on e1. Or okay, yeah, maybe the queen was on d2. So he decided to sacrifice the pawn. That was a mistake. Even there, his position should be good, but he blundered a tactical counter strike and lost that game. As for this variation, then I think it's better for white to take on a4, and then maybe play c4, then queen d1, rook fd1, and white has a lead in development, and because he also gained more space, he's definitely better. So that's why in this position, queen a5, knight a4 plan is not the best option. And black decided to castle. White castles, bishop d7. I don't really like this move. It closes the d file and bishop is not doing much there. It was much better for black to play something like b6 in this position. Then maybe bishop a6 or a5, bishop a6. Or maybe even bishop b7 to support the pawn on a4 after knight e4. That was definitely a better option. Bishop d7 is a weird move. I'm sure Alexander Morozevich knew everything about b6 and bishop b7 or bishop a6 ideas. However, he decided to make a surprise. Okay, so there is a good comment from Edwin. Yes, the latent development can be, you can take the advantage of development if you open the position, especially if the king is in the center. By saying open the position, I mean initiating a pawn trade in the center to open the files. However, if you can calculate, maybe you can sacrifice the material, like sacrifice a piece to be able to open the position. Sometimes it works. And 2 webinars ago, we analyzed a game where, or maybe not. Okay, I don't remember exactly, but I think we did, where one of the players sacrificed the piece and then defeated the other one with a strong attack. So bishop d7, a3, with the idea to play b4 at some point. So bishop e8. Oh, from e8, bishop can go to h5. Of course, you know that one of the plans of black in this position is to play f6. Now, for example, if something like rook c8, then b4, knight e4, we take, then knight d2. How to play? Oh, looks like f5. If we take, then our rook is hanging. This is what I don't want. But if we keep the position close and play this move, then our knight can enter the enemy camp and make an outpost on the d6 square. So bishop e8 was played. So I still think that b4 is a possible move in this position, but with bishop e8, black wanted to open the d file. So now knight e4 is a little bit stronger. Queen e1. What do you think is the idea of this move? This move has two ideas behind it. Exactly, Samuel, I agree with you. Yeah, guys, you all are correct. The queen goes to the king side, and the d1 square is vacated for a rook. Rook c8 was played in the game. Here, for example, d4 was a kind of a risky move because we play this move, rook d1, of course. He plays queen b6. If we take on d4, he takes on b2. What can you say about that position? Is it in our favor or not? Not in our favor. If so, then how to play? If not knight d4, then what do you suggest? Okay, any suggestions what to do in this position for white? Get a lot of activity down the b file. Yes, Samuel, I agree with you. Knight d4, queen b2. Then rook b1. He takes on a3, but knight db5, queen a5, and then I think knight d6. The b7 is now hanging. The bishop on e8 is bad, so if black captures, then e takes d6, and we have two strong bishops, passed pawn, and we are threatening with rook b5 as well. And this bishop on e8 only breaks the connection between rooks and doesn't allow the f rook to join the game. So that's why d4 was quite risky. Instead, rook c8 was played. Rook d1, queen c7, b4, knight d7, knight b5. So you see, this is where white starts to develop his initiative. So queen b8 in this position. And then please tell me how to continue. So we got some queenside space. What should we do then? Something about the backward pawn? You mean the c pawn? Who cares? It's not the main factor. I think here pieces activity decides the game. Yes, it's important to keep an eye on it, but only if you pass the game into the end game, where this pawn can be really a weakness. As for now, it doesn't really look to be a weakness. So yeah, black queens is offside. It doesn't participate the game anymore, and because the e5 pawn, and actually it's if you, for example, play French defense, you know that the typical plan for white in such opening is to attack on the king side, especially if you have the space there and all of your pieces are focused on the king side attack. So bishop d3. Another move was queen g3, but bishop d3 is more universal. Oh, f6 was played in the game. So before the webinar, I conducted a lesson to Anirudh, so my student, who is also a member of our today's webinar, and I told him that when you are under attack and you want to get more pieces into defense, try to get more space by playing f6. However, in that position, it really made sense. But in this position, f6 only weakens the position. It's difficult to suggest a move. Maybe something solid like g6 could work. But f6 was played in the game. Looks like a typical idea, but due to a concrete variation, it loses. I can't say that it loses the game, but it leads to a better position for white. Queen h4. So the h7 pawn is hanging, and if he plays either g6 or bishop g6, no, let's say g6, then just queen h3. f5, and we have a strong attack. What is more important, it's difficult to protect the pawn on e6. Only bishop f7. So he played f5 immediately. Queen h6. Oh, queen h3, sorry. Knight b6. How to continue? What do you think? Knight g5? Oh, I don't think so. If we play knight g5, he gonna take on g5 and then take the e5 pawn, even with his queen. Okay, bishop takes b6 looks good. And this is what white played in the game. However, it's not the only good move in this position. Another option to play, okay, I'm waiting for more. Yes, another option to play was g4. So here Anatoly is correct. It's g4, for example, knight c4, bishop c4, d takes c4, knight bd4, trying to attack the weakness on e6, because now he either takes on g4 and weakens the e6 pawn, or plays bishop f7 and then loses the pawn on f5. So in the game it was knight b6, bishop takes b6, a takes b6, and g4 after that. g6. Right. So yeah, you see, starting from knight b5, we play only attacking moves. This is where we develop the initiative. So g takes here, and in this position, what do you think? Which pawn to take? And why do you think the e pawn? Yeah, because if you take with the g pawn, you weaken the king too much. However, even if you take with the e pawn, you can face with some problems. Yeah, so g takes at least king h1 with a strong attack on the g file. So even king h8, rook g1, and if rook g8, we trade the rooks. Then join the other rook to the attack. So that's why e takes f5. Wait a sec, I can't make a move for some reason. Okay. Oh, okay. So Samuel, Vitaly thinks that we can close the king with bishop g6, but in such a case, the e6 is a weakness. For some reason, Chessbase is not responding. I don't know what's going on. Oh, now it works. Fine. Sorry. So g takes f5, king h1. Then king h8, rook goes here. And bishop g6 right now doesn't work. And even here it doesn't work. Then just what? Knight goes here, for example. And if knight d8, maybe knight h4, maybe even bishop. b5 with two ideas to play this move or this move. So that's why g takes f5 looks like a suicide. So e takes f5 was played in the game. Rook f2. King h1 was another good move. Knight d8. Knight b to d4 to control the e6 square. At the same time, we want to threaten on f5 at some point. King h8, rook g2. If, for example, rook g8 is played, how would you continue in this position? Knight takes f5. Okay, knight takes f5. G takes f5. Rook takes g8. King takes g8. And then after bishop f5, we are threatening to take a rook or deliver a checkmate on h7. That should be a checkmate. I'll show you. So rook c6, queen h7, king f8, queen h8, king f7, and just king h1 with rook g1 and queen g8. So it's difficult for black to join the other pieces to the defense, and that's why in this position white is able to checkmate. So that's why instead of rook g8, rook c3 was played in this position. But here knight h4. So the idea is to take on g6 or to take on f5. Actually, both moves work. So knight c6 was played. So knight b5 is a good move in this position just to trap the rook. But knight e6 was played instead. Rook g8, and after knight f5, the game is almost over. So if he takes, we can capture here. He takes, and then what do you think? How do we continue? No, you can't play bishop f5. The queen is hanging. But you can play queen h6. That's right. And there is no defense against queen g7. So if king f7, then we play bishop f5. Oh, wait, no, queen h7 immediately, and then just bishop takes f5 with a checkmate. That's much, much better. So knight e6, queen c8 was, oh, sorry, rook g8, knight f5, and in this position, queen c8 was played in the game. How would you continue? What do you think? Knight h6. Knight h6, rook g7. Knight e to d4, but then knight takes d4. You can't take without a knight. Your queen is hanging, so please look at this diagonal and don't blunder anything. Knight where? Knight takes d7. Where? Knight takes e7. Okay, knight takes e7. Knight takes knight. Knight g5 after that. Rook g7 then. No, knight g5. The queen takes queen. And then black simplifies. No, guys, you can just play rook g3 with the intention to play queen h7, king takes h7, and rook h3 mate. That's why our knight on e6 is not hanging. h5. Now, knight h6. Rook g7 is the only move. And then we just play bishop f5 with the idea to take on g7. So if he takes here, then we can do what? We can take on g7 with our knight, and if he takes on g3, we take with the queen. We have extra exchange, then we take on f5 and deliver a checkmate either on g7 or on g8. So rook takes g3 was played in the game, but then queen takes g3 and the bishop on f5 is not hanging anymore. Sorry, queen g3, not pawn takes. Queen g3, queen b8, rook takes d5, and then the game is over. This is where black resigned. He is 2 pawns down, and his rook is under attack. So if, for example, rook h7, we take the other pawn. Oh, if bishop g6, rook h6, then actually what move should we play? Yeah, true. It's bishop f7, threatening with a checkmate. He can't block it. We threaten with both two checkmates, g7 and g8 with our queen. Okay, so there was a question about rook g7. So I think it was somewhere here, rook g3. If g takes, then why not to capture hero with a rook? Because this is how we blunder the queen. Samuel, did I answer your question? Oh, yeah, looks like yes. No, there is no checkmate. There is a strong attack, but with no queen, you can't succeed in it. Okay, so what you may notice in this position. So white played only best moves and really got the initiative, or so got the advantage here. So bishop d7 was a mistake, I think. Then bishop e8 was a kind of a weird move. Then White located his pieces with the idea to focus on the king side, because this is the general plan that works for queens for French defense openings. Doesn't really matter which line it is, but in most of them, White should be looking for a king side attack. So, and then we didn't allow our opponent to overtake the initiative. We were only playing attacking moves. Like that. So we got the space on the queen side and focused on the king side attack. And because his pieces were located on the queen side of the board, he was unable to join them to the king side and protect the king. Any questions about this game? Oh, looks like there was the problem with Black was his. Okay. Okay, hello guys who just joined us recently. This is Fido Master Victor Neustroev, and thank you for coming to my webinar. It's webinar 54 that is called How to Develop and Implement the Initiative. So I think the reason why you joined 1 hour later is because United States shifts the time today 1 hour back, and maybe there was the problem with a conversion of my time zone to American time zone. Anyway, so today we are talking about the initiative. I'm showing the examples of how to develop it, and the webinar was recorded anyway, and you can watch this webinar on YouTube. I'll share the link. Wait a sec. Oh, this is the link. No, I think the problem only happened with Americans because American and Canadian citizens changed the time zone today. Because I think England or United Kingdom changed the time last week. As for Russia, Russia doesn't change at all. I think Mexico did change last week also. I don't know about Australia, but I know that Queensland doesn't change the time to doesn't change the time to summer or winter time. Okay, what do you mean update the email? Because when you register, you can convert the time to your time zone. I said it was 3 p.m. Oh, that's my mistake. Sorry. Okay, so Okay, I see, Edwin. So the problem is that you are not able to calculate so fast. I understand it absolutely, but guys, if I give you really enough time to calculate, we'll sit here for many hours. That's why I want you to suggest moves from your using your intuition, and of course some of the lines should be covered, should be calculated. Of course, I think, yeah, so I think it's more for 2,000 players who are able to calculate deeper and faster. So approximately, yeah, like me. Okay, I see. Yeah, try to use your intuition. Sometimes it works. And for example, one more thing that I recommend, from time to time, I recommend you to watch this the recording of the webinar again and again. And when you want to calculate something, just pause the video and think, calculate, spend time on it. Because I'm absolutely sure that after maybe a few months, you'll forget about this game. And of course, you will remember some certain moves from that game, but not all of them. And that's why some moves will be quite new for you. So do it in a few months. Fine. And actually, as for calculation, I'm working on a new course about calculation. I'll teach you to improve your ability to calculate with special training exercises. And in the first part of the course, I'm going to analyze the mistakes that people make when they start their calculation. Okay, guys. Okay, I see. So from time to time, I provide you with PGNs of the games I analyzed, especially for the openings. You can find it in our educational group on chess.com. So this is the link to this group. And if you see a post, I'll show you. Wait, oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so I'll show you. If you, for example, see a post and okay, click here, news. So some live webinars, something online tournaments. And from time to time, I post PGNs there. Let me find where it is. Yeah, for example, this is a PGN that I posted. How to beat Scandinavian defense, PGN. How to play against Alekin defense. If you can find it here, it's probably should be on my website. Here in the blog area. So post it with one of the news. Actually, if you don't want to miss anything, you may subscribe. You can find it on the main page. So here, name and email address, and if so, you will get a notification about new posts. Okay, fine. Let me close it. Let's go back because we have at least one more game to analyze. One game to analyze plus your questions. Let me close it. And we are going to analyze the game played between Alexander Alekin and Cesarul Capablanca. Please look at the position and tell me what you think. Who is better and why? Who has the move? That's a good question. Of course, white. Because I flip the board, and if white is on the downside, it's white to move. This is actually a famous game. And this game was once analyzed on my webinar, but not the full game, the entire game, but only the end game. So white to move in this position, tell me who is better and why, and what white should do. Well, I will say it's equal. Maybe white is slightly better. Okay, now please suggest a plan. And remember, the task is to gain the initiative here. White should make moves to gain the initiative, and then black's task will be to extinguish this initiative. Black king is less safe. Yes, we can exploit the king weakness in one of the possible lines here. One of the yeah, exactly. So in one of the lines we can exploit the king weakness. H4. Oh, wait a sec. Oh my god, so that's a mistake. It's not. Oh, let me just quickly change. I'm showing you a wrong position. So the pawn was on h3, not on h2. Just wait a sec, I'll open a new one. Where it is here. Just wait a sec, I'll upload a new one with the pawn on h3. It takes some time, but don't worry. Okay, here we are. So the pawn is on h3, white to move. You suggest knight h4? h4, h5 doesn't make sense because bishop comes to g4. Knight h4. Knight h4 makes sense, but we are not threatening with knight f5. Okay, so I'll show you. White played queen d2. Why? The idea of this move is to come to a5. From this position, we can threaten two pawns and force our opponent to defend the position. What black should do? Black played bishop e6 here. For example, if he played another move like bishop b5 or bishop c6, then knight h4 looks really strong because with knight f5, we threaten not only to gain a queen, but also to play queen to h6. No, knight f5, queen h6 with a mating threat. So let's go back. Bishop e6 was played in the game. Then we take, queen takes, and then we play queen a5. So this is how we attack two pawns. Yes, exactly. It's a kind of a weak pawn. e5 is a weakness too, by the way. What should black do in this position? In the game, they played knight c4. It wasn't the best move. In this position, at least black had two options to extinguish white's initiative. What were they? No, rook c1, rook takes c1. What's the idea behind this trade? No, yes. Generally speaking, yes. We want to gain a pawn, then create a distant pass pawn and take the advantage of it. And this is what exactly happened in the game, by the way. Knight fd7. Marcel, I agree with you. You're absolutely right. That was one of the options. So okay, while you're thinking about the second option, I'm going to show you the first one, knight fd7. The idea of this move is to protect the a7 pawn indirectly. For example, if now queen takes on a7, we can play knight c5 and threaten with rook a8. Because if he wants to escape now, he gets knight b3. This is a really good idea. So that's why after knight fd7, the pawn is not hanging. The second option, okay, the second option was to play queen b3 to attack the weakness on b2. Then if, for example, we take here, then knight c4, the pawn is hanging rook b1, then rook c6. Or maybe even, yes, maybe not rook c6, but knight d7, with the same idea to trap this queen. That's why after queen b3, we can capture on e5. We can take it with the knight or with our queen, let's say with the queen first, then rook f e8, queen moves, rook attacks, queen moves back, and then we blunder, not blunder, but we have to sacrifice the pawn on e4. This is how this is how black equalizes the material balance. Now black defends the pawn, and then on the next move plays knight d5. The position is approximately equal. If, for example, instead of taking on e5 with the queen, we take with our knight, then rook c1, queen b2, double, no, not double attack, but the rook is hanging, knight d3, queen goes to d4, the e4 is hanging, queen a7, queen takes d3, queen takes b6, then knight e4, and after rook c7, looks like this the b7 pawn dies, but actually the a pawn is a weakness too. We play this move, and if he takes, we play queen a1 and just simplify the position to get a draw. So these were two good lines that could allow black to simplify the position and claim a draw finally, but knight c4 was played. I don't know what Capablanca was thinking about. Why didn't he play queen b3? As for me, I would play knight fd7 definitely. This is my style when I like create some traps. No, but these are good traps, because if my opponent is trapped, then I win. If not, then my position is still good. So knight c4. Queen takes a7, knight b2. Rook c8. Rook c8. Queen takes b7. Then knight d3 was a good move. Knight c4 was played in the game. Queen b4. Rook e8, rook a1 to support the pawn. Then queen c6, attacking on e4. a4. Now knight takes on e4. What do you think we can do now? What comes to your mind? Rook c1. No, I don't think rook c1 works. Rook c1, maybe rook a4. Trade the knights on e4 and take on e5. Yes, that makes sense. However, yeah, here Julian and Danusha are correct. We'd better take on e5 first, and this is what happened in the game. So knight takes e5 was played. So for some reason it's not working again. Okay, so here we take on e5 with our knight, then knight takes knight, and then queen captures on e4. Oh, so knight takes e5. Oh, yeah, right, it works. Fine. Queen d6, queen c4. No, then they play the several moves. So you see here, our rook is hanging. That's why we have to move it. We can't take on e4. We have to move it to e1. And here our task is to trade to trade either rooks and knights or queen and knights. If we pass the game into rook endgame and locate our rook behind our pawn, we can just move the king to b4 and support. Oh, they played several moves. I'll show you. So rook a2. Well, one of the general rules when we play the endgame is to locate the rook behind passed pawn. If it's your passed pawn, you just support from behind. If it's the enemy passed pawn, your rook should also be behind this pawn to be able to control it. If you do like that, your rook is still active. Rook a5, queen c7, queen a6, queen c3 check. Then we get some activity. So, for example, if in this position rook a4 is played, then after rook d8 we win the game. Because it's difficult to suggest anything. Something like f6 would face with queen c7, mate. So the pawn is not hanging. That's why black plays queen b6 to cover the d8 square. But rook d7, queen b1 check, king h2, queen b8 check, rook f5, then queen d4. This is the key moment of the game. We activated our queen. We got the central, the best position for our queen. I think from this square, we not only support the f2, but keep in mind the idea to deliver a back rank mate, like with rook h8. It's not actually a back rank mate, but okay. Or a5, a6, a7. So if we trade the rooks in this position, then after playing a5 and then queen b6, we can just promote the pawn easily. Because from b6, our queen is supporting the f2 pawn. Okay, fine. Queen e8 was played. Now rook d8 doesn't work. If we play rook d8, then what do you think gonna happen? Yeah, either queen goes to e5 or rook f2, what looks beautiful. Really, it's a good move. So if king g1, it's a checkmate. If queen takes here, then queen takes on d8. I still believe that white is better, but I'm not sure that white is able to win this game. So that's why here, after queen e8, we have to play rook d5. Rook f3, h4, queen h8. So he offers a trade. What do you think? Is it in white favor to trade the queens right now and then somehow promote the a pawn? No, in black favor. Yes, Marcel, you are right. It's in black favor. But yes, rook a3, you're right. I'll show you. So, guys, if rook a3 in this position, no, then of course rook a3, a5, no, a5, rook a3. So the rook is located behind the pawns, and this is how black gets real chances for a draw. If, for example, instead white rook is located somewhere here, then it's a winning position. That's why we don't trade the queens, but play queen b6. Queen e1, king g2. Rook f6, but now queen d4, and he has to trade. Queen d4, rook d4, king g7, a5, and then we locate the rook. No, we didn't play this move, but actually rook a4 was a good option here. However, he played it. He played it later. And then he successfully won that endgame. It was already shown in one of my previous webinars when I explained how to play the endgames, and I was illustrating it by the examples of Capablanca games. So what was our plan here? We should try to get the king to b5. Of course, black is going to do the same thing. And when the king is on c6, our task is to relocate our pieces, move the king back, and try to enter his king side. Maybe to g5 somehow, or maybe g4, h5. This is a very famous game, and this is where this plan was realized. However, it's not the point of our today's webinar. That's why I don't want to finish the game and to the very end, because it really requires many explanations, and actually this is what I already did. Yeah, it's famous. You could see, looks like you didn't watch my previous webinars, but it was in my webinars, and you can find it some endgame books, for example. I'm not sure if it's in Willa's book, but it's quite famous, and everyone wants to include it in their book. So what I want you to show. So the position was approximately equal. Maybe white is just a little bit better. And but he had some ideas how to develop the initiative, and this is what he did with his queen a5 move. However, because I mentioned that the position was equal, it means that black could have a chance to extinguish the initiative, but unfortunately was unable to calculate and didn't play neither knight f to d7 nor queen b3 move. Instead, he played knight c4 move and lost the pawn finally. Yeah, it can be. I'm not sure if it can be chessable, but maybe. Okay, guys. So, what questions do you have, and what do you want me to cover on the next webinar? If you have any questions about the initiative, so what to do, how to exploit it, or something like that, I'm okay. So William asks, what does it mean to be behind the passed pawn? It means to locate the rook behind the pawn, not in front of the pawn. So if pawn goes, it goes from the rook. So for example, if we locate our rook on a1, it's located behind the pawn because pawn goes up. If it's the enemy pawn, let's say it's the a pawn, we should locate our rook on a8, so behind, like attack from the backside. And how to defend? No, actually I didn't. Yeah, that's a good idea. How to defend? How to identify the initiative? You should be calculating all options that force your opponent to defend. But at the same time, you should understand because of what factors you are able to get the initiative. What are these factors that allows you? So chess is a logical game, and every tactical strike is a result of a positional advantage or some no, yeah, or positional, or if there are some tactical motives hidden there. How to make plans? Oh, I have the webinar about the plans, and actually there are some basic ideas that you can apply. I also have a course devoted on how to make a plan. You can find it on my website. I'll just send you the link. So how to make a game plan, it's called, where I analyze several games and explain the plans behind. So this is about a game plan. But in general, like if I have just a few words to say about plans, if you don't know what plan to apply, find your worst piece and try to improve it. Or think about your opponent's play, of your opponent's plan, and if you think that it's quite dangerous for you, try to disrupt it. How to get a counterplay in a mutual win game. Okay, I see. Yeah, but maybe how to defend is a good topic for the next webinar. I'll think about it. Some openings. Sorry, I don't want to teach some openings in the nearest webinars because I just covered many of them. So if you want, you can watch previous webinars. So yeah, I'll think about endgames tactics. That makes sense. Oh, there was, yes. Actually, the art of evaluation. But I have a chess group now. Okay. Okay, I see. As for the evaluation, yes, I had a similar webinar when I was talking about the plans. I first explained the evaluation, who is better and why. So because the plan is a result of the evaluation of the position. If you have a worse position, then you should be playing some positional moves that can improve it in general or in a certain part of the board. Actually, in my course where I show how to find a game plan, I also devoted one lecture of how to make the evaluation of the position. So you can find it there. No, queen sacrifice, I see. Yes, William, you're absolutely right. If the pawn is on the 6th rank, if the black pawn is on the 6th rank, if you are white, you should locate the rook on, even if you are white or black, you should locate the rook on the 7th or 8th rank behind this passed pawn. Okay, fine. So, guys, you can, if you have anything to suggest, or if you are looking for a coach, you can message me by sending an email. So you can reach me at tricksofchess at gmail.com. Yeah, step-by-step guide how to beat Magnus Carlsen. I think it can be even a best-selling video course. However, to make such a course, I should first beat Magnus Carlsen and then make a course. No, I've never played against him. There was a webinar about the Outpost. Can you consider some endgame studies that are famous and instructive? You can. So there is a good book written by Mark Dvoretsky, but I have it only in Russian. Okay, so yes, of course, there is another book written by Panchenko. This is the one I like, but it's also a Soviet book. It's not translated into English. How do you checkmate with two bishops, knight, and the king? Okay. Okay, yeah. So you have quite good suggestions. Anyway, Averback and games are good. And actually, guys, so if you're looking for an endgame course, I also have it. I cover it all the different endgames. So pawn endgames, rook endgames, minor piece endgames, and even queen endgames. So you can watch them here. So thank you for coming. The next webinar will be next Sunday, same time. So please come, and I'm going to show something interesting. Yes, it's 2 p.m. UK time, and I think it's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, for example, if you are living in New York or in the East Coast in United States, it's 9 a.m. for you. Okay, thank you. Come to my next webinar next Sunday. See you then. Bye-bye.